In the shadow of a shocking assassination that shook America, it wasn't only suspect Tyler Robinson who stirred public outrage. The mysterious disappearance of his transgender partner, Lance Twiggs, has plunged the community into a spiral of suspicion, fear, and unanswered questions. The darkness surrounding the assassination of Charlie Kirk casts a long shadow across Utah, but public attention is not fixed solely on suspect Tyler Robinson. Whispers are growing louder about another name, Lance Twiggs, Robinson's 22-year-old transgender partner, who once stood at the center of the investigation, but has now vanished without a trace. The apartment where Twiggs once lived, lively and bustling with a rent of $1,800 a month, has fallen into eerie silence. Sticky notes still cling to the front door, while unopened stacks of mail reveal a hasty departure, as if their occupant fled in the middle of a night filled with terror. Neighbors are unsettled. Some murmur that Twiggs may know more than she told investigators. Her initial cooperation, her willingness to assist the police, now looks questionable as she disappears into thin air. Was someone forcing her into silence? Or did she run away, haunted by threats too terrifying to face? The public is divided. Many believe Twiggs is the second victim of this unfolding tragedy, while others suspect she may be more deeply entangled in the plot than anyone dared to imagine. Long nights in St. George have grown heavier. Police cruisers sit parked in once quiet neighborhoods, a chilling reminder that safety has been stolen. Residents recall how Twiggs used to walk alongside Robinson through the streets, forming the picture of an unusual yet inseparable couple. Now, her absence carves a deeper hole in the mystery, leaving more questions than answers. Even statements from the sheriff have fueled the uncertainty. He confirmed that Twiggs had been taken to a safe location out of fear for her security, yet no one can say where that is. If she truly was under protection, why has no trace of her surfaced? Why do neighbors insist on her sudden disappearance if she was supposedly being safeguarded? Every fragment of evidence, from Robinson's handwritten confession left beneath Twiggs' keyboard to her deafening silence, feels like a piece of a deadly puzzle. The assassination of Charlie Kirk is no longer just the story of a lone gunman. It has become a labyrinth of secrets, betrayals, and an unnerving disappearance, where anyone who dares to dig deeper risks stumbling into dangers that may be lurking just behind them. In the whirlwind of the investigation into the assassination of Charlie Kirk, the focus of public attention has shifted beyond suspect Tyler Robinson and his partner, Lance Twiggs. Small yet conflicting details have begun to surface, drawing the public into a state of heightened curiosity. Robinson is said to have left behind a handwritten note beneath Twiggs' keyboard, along with a string of confession messages. Instead of providing clarity, these words only deepened the fog of mystery surrounding the case. According to investigators, Twiggs initially reacted with doubt. She tried to reason, to find a plausible explanation, as if she couldn't bring herself to believe that Robinson, the companion who had once walked beside her, could commit such a shocking crime. Yet, this very skepticism made everything even murkier. Did Twiggs truly not know, or was she concealing part of the truth to protect herself? Meanwhile, Robinson's apartment in St. George and his parents' home in Washington City became heavily guarded sites. But the division of investigative authority between city police and the county sheriff's office only fueled confusion. Who truly understood what happened on that fateful night? And why had so little been disclosed about key witnesses, such as Robinson's roommate or his parents? The silence from law enforcement only fed the public's imagination. Rumors spread that Robinson had not acted alone, that a shadowy figure might have orchestrated events from behind the scenes, and that Twiggs could have been the invisible link in this unfolding tragedy. She has never been formally charged, yet the weight of public scrutiny pressed down on her, turning her sudden disappearance into something even more ominous. Amid a storm of unanswered questions, one fact stands unchallenged. Robinson confessed in a manner that left little room for denial. But from the mysterious note to Twiggs' puzzling reaction to the ambiguous handling of the investigation, everything seems to be just the tip of the iceberg. Each new detail revealed opens a new and twisting path, forming a suspenseful labyrinth where anyone daring to enter risks being swallowed by intrigue and unseen dangers. Amid the heavy air of suspicion, another pressing question arises: who truly holds the authority and responsibility in this tangled investigation? Tyler Robinson's apartment sits within the boundaries of St. George, while his parents' home lies in Washington City. The two places may be separated by only a few miles, yet this administrative divide has created a gray zone in the handling of the case. Washington County Sheriff Nate Brooksby openly admitted that his office was not the lead investigative agency and therefore had not interviewed key witnesses such as Robinson's roommate or his parents. These statements, instead of offering clarity, opened a gaping void. Who actually possesses the full picture of the truth? Were critical details overlooked, or worse, deliberately concealed? The community began to murmur with unease. They saw a glaring contradiction. A political assassination that shocked the nation was now trapped in an unusual silence of jurisdictional gaps. Crucial testimonies had not been disclosed, pieces of evidence seemed scattered across multiple agencies, and the overall narrative felt deliberately fragmented. Residents asked themselves if the truth was being buried beneath layers of bureaucracy, or perhaps hidden by calculated silence. As the public wrestled with these questions, Robinson's surrender unfolded in the most unexpected way. There were no blaring sirens, no storm of a SWAT raid, no dramatic midnight standoff. Instead, it happened quietly, almost too quietly. Robinson was escorted by his parents and a retired detective, an old friend of the sheriff, straight to the sheriff's office. A man accused of assassinating a nationally recognized figure was handled in a scene so calm, so negotiated, it felt as though an invisible hand had orchestrated the moment. This unusual serenity only fueled curiosity further. Robinson, terrified of a SWAT assault or of being gunned down by police, agreed to surrender only if his safety could be guaranteed. And indeed, his conditions were honored. He sat for hours in a secure room, provided with water, untouched by questioning, until federal and state investigators finally arrived to take custody. Yet, this in turn raised another layer of suspicion. Was Robinson merely a pawn in a larger scheme, one so sensitive that authorities had to ensure a smooth handover to keep something hidden from the public eye? Or was it simply the result of deep-rooted community ties, where trust between Robinson's family and an old law enforcement contact shaped the entire surrender? Each answer seemed to generate new questions, multiplying into a web of uncertainty. What was presented as a peaceful surrender now looked like a calculated performance. And behind it all, the truth remained buried, lurking in the shadows, waiting to be unearthed by those daring enough to search deeper. The surrender of Tyler Robinson, the man accused of assassinating Charlie Kirk, seemed at first glance to conclude in an unusual calm. Yet the reality was far from simple. The details surrounding the process revealed another layer of tension, turning the entire episode into a labyrinth far more complex than it appeared on the surface. For over 2.5 hours, Robinson sat in silence inside a room at the Washington County Sheriff's Office. He was not interrogated, not pressured, merely left waiting in a strange limbo between guilt and freedom. Water was provided, the atmosphere deliberately kept calm, eerily unlike the image of a suspect accused of assassinating a political figure. To many, this looked like an unusual privilege, raising the question, was Robinson being shielded by a hidden power behind the scenes? When federal and state agents finally arrived to take custody, the transfer unfolded smoothly. No shouting, no confrontation, no sparks of resistance. But outside those walls, the public was far from reassured. People wondered aloud, why was such a dangerous suspect allowed to surrender in such serenity? Could it be that the authorities feared a violent arrest might expose secrets too explosive to contain? In the days that followed, these questions only multiplied. Police patrol cars continued circling the quiet neighborhood where Robinson and Twiggs had once lived. Their presence became a fixed reminder of the fragility of security. And then came Twiggs' mysterious disappearance, an absence that poured gasoline on the fire of suspicion. The public began linking the strangely gentle surrender with her ominous silence. Was there a hidden deal at play? Sheriff Brooksby praised the outstanding role of his longtime friend, a retired detective who had been key in persuading Robinson to turn himself in. But to the public, this only deepened the unease. Could a personal connection, a thread of community trust, truly dictate the terms of surrender for a man accused of assassinating a national figure? Was this merely a compromise, or a carefully staged strategy to prevent darker truths from spilling out? Every element, the handwritten confession, the haunting messages, the almost theatrical surrender, refused to stand still. They spun relentlessly in the public's imagination, transforming the case into a nightmarish drama where each secret revealed seemed to open yet another door to unfathomable danger. 2 weeks after Tyler Robinson's surrender, patrol cars still linger on the once peaceful street where he had lived with Lance Twiggs. The familiar image of the neighborhood has now been warped, haunted by one unsettling absence: Twiggs herself. The 22-year-old transgender woman who once walked alongside Robinson every evening has suddenly vanished, leaving behind a silent apartment, stacks of unopened mail, and sticky notes hastily left on the door. Her disappearance has not only unsettled neighbors, but also ignited the curiosity of the wider public across Utah. If Robinson had already confessed to the crime, then where did Twiggs fit into the larger picture? Why did she vanish immediately after cooperating with police? And why did the sheriff's initial assurances that Twiggs was being kept safe in a secure location no longer align with reality? Authorities maintained that the wave of public outrage, particularly the criticism aimed at Twiggs for not immediately reporting Robinson's confession, had made her safety a top priority. Yet her current silence has only added another layer of mystery. Was Twiggs truly under protection, or had she fled to escape the glare of suspicion and the weight of invisible threats? Meanwhile, the story of Robinson's handwritten confession left beneath Twiggs' keyboard, and the series of incriminating text messages continued to spread. People imagined the moment Twiggs discovered those words, shocked, doubtful, trying desperately to rationalize the unfolding tragedy. But such shock did not erase the larger question. Was she truly unaware, or was she playing the role of an outsider while hiding more than anyone suspected? In the public's mind, every detail of the case is now examined through a lens of suspicion. Robinson's parents' home, his former apartment, even the car that appeared at UVU, all have become symbols of secrets still unrevealed. And at the very center of this whirlwind stands Twiggs, a witness, a partner, and now the ghostly figure of a troubling disappearance. The assassination of Charlie Kirk, already shocking enough, has taken on a darker, more dramatic dimension with this inexplicable absence. The community finds itself suspended in a state of waiting, trapped in a labyrinth of shadows. Each answer that surfaces only opens another corridor of suspicion, while the truth remains shrouded beneath layers of silence and fear. When details emerged about the secret phone call between Sheriff Nate Brooksby and his old friend, a retired detective, the case veered sharply into new, dramatic territory. According to accounts, this friend was the key link, holding knowledge of Robinson's whereabouts and persuading the suspect's family to surrender him peacefully. But what truly chilled the public was this. The call lasted only 1 minute and 41 seconds, yet it was enough to change the entire course of the case. In the trembling voice of the retired detective, Brooksby sensed an unusual urgency. His first thought was, "Who's dead?" But the answer hit even harder. "I know who shot Charlie Kirk." In that instant, everything became dangerously fragile. On one side, there was the risk of Robinson's suicide. On the other, the relentless pressure of a nationwide manhunt. And all of it hung on a fragile thread of trust between two old friends. This revelation ignited the public's curiosity. Why was such a major case hinging on a personal phone call rather than official protocol? Was the truth being steered by hidden relationships, where a handful of individuals could sway the entire machinery of law enforcement? The image of Robinson being escorted by his parents and the retired detective to the sheriff's office added another layer of tension. No blaring sirens, no armed raid, just a quiet agreement in the shadows, as if everything had been orchestrated beforehand. This serenity left many uneasy. If Robinson feared being gunned down by a SWAT team, then the authorities had clearly made concessions in exchange for his cooperation. But in doing so, the public was left to question whether fairness and transparency had been sacrificed. From a brief phone call, a complex network of trust, fear, and compromise had emerged. And in that moment, The assassination of Charlie Kirk ceased to be just the story of a political killing. It became living proof of the fragility of justice, where the truth itself could be bent and reshaped in the span of less than 2 minutes.